Oh hey! Professor Dave here. Today we're going to make this fluffy little cloud by using two brand new commands in Rhino 7 and 8. The first one is called Shrinkwrap, and the second one is called Quad Remesh. So if you've never heard of them, you're in for a treat. All right, in Rhino, there is an important first step. So I'm going to zoom in onto step 1. And what I've created here is just a series of spheres. They're overlapping. Some have been scaled, some have been moved around. There's a giant flat one on the bottom. So I did this just to create a scaffolding, or it's like construction lines when you're doing 2D drawing. So we're just going to use this because it's quick and it's easy. So over on step 2, I also wanted to have it sliced off on the bottom. Therefore, this is an extra step, not required. I went ahead and booleaned, that's a Boolean union under the solid menu, all of the spheres together and then sliced off the bottom. So if I just hide that, you can see there is kind of the remainder or the result of adding all these together. And if they're simple enough like this, you can probably just do it all in one single step. All right, now we get to the good stuff. So step 3, here is the exact same closed poly surface. We're going to run the command called mesh Shrinkwrap. I've got all the settings here. I've been experimenting quite a bit, and I will talk about which ones you should use or not use. So let's select the object here. I'm going to go up to the mesh menu and select Shrinkwrap. Try to get everything in the screen here at the same time. All right. So I have found that the target edge length, remember, is the units in your file. Mine is millimeters. The offset is how much larger it's going to get. So that's a nice way to reduce some of those sharp creases. Remember, we want this to follow the basic form, but be a little bit smoother. So it's really important to take a look at the preview. So that's down here. And the result is, you can see, this is the 3mm offset where it gets a little bit bigger. Now also, I've got only 2 smoothing iterations. The higher ones, I didn't notice a big difference. And the optimization I've kept fairly low. I want to capture all the detail because we have another command here to smooth it all out. Also, it's worth noting that this is not a quad. Instead, we have a series of 4-sided and 3-sided. So it's just a random mixture as the software needs. I'm going to go hit OK. And that's the result. It does look horribly complicated. A lot of times you may want to look at it with the rendered view to simplify it a bit. So that's looking quite a bit better. Let's go back to shaded view. And now the final step, step number 4, which is where we're going to run the Quad Remesh tool. That is going to turn this into a SubD object. Okay, we're going to select this mesh that we just created in step 3. We're going to go to SubD under the Edit Tools. And we're looking for Quad Remesh right there. It's also on the toolbar, and it looks like this. Okay, let me move this over. Now there's 2 basic ways to do the Quad Remesh. The default is way harder because you've got target count, adaptive size, and adaptive quad count. Forget that. I'm just going to pick this one single variable, and then it's a lot more fun and interesting to experiment. I found that if I went to 4, again, that's file units, 4mm, I had some good results, but we also have to look around at some of these other options. Convert to SubD, yes. The interpolate, I actually experiment back and forth with that. Now, the most important part of this whole operation is definitely want to do the preview, which can be really confusing here. It takes a few seconds to generate. We've got these 2 things on top of each other. Kind of a mess. So just temporarily hide the input. Now we can see what we're about to generate with the Quad Remesh command. So that looks pretty darn smooth. So we got rid of a lot of the jaggies, and we've got kind of similar size quads everywhere. So it could be a little bit simpler, but you might start to lose some of that definition. I definitely want to keep in these little joints in between some of the puffy parts. Oh, by the way, I said you could interpolate. There was not much of a difference between the 2 versions. So depending on your project, check both, then make the decision, then hit OK. The mesh is now back, which was only temporarily hidden, so we can go ahead and just maybe hide that or delete it. And just want to remind you, this is now fully editable SubDs. We went straight from a NURBS to a mesh to a SubD. So it was a long way around, but it is amazing. There's no other way I have seen to do this. So again, we hit Tab and we go into box mode, and you can do any of the operations, like a little extrusion here, which I don't see any purpose in doing that, but you could move or extrude stuff, and it's still pretty smooth because it's SubDs. So there you go. It's hopefully a very straightforward set of 4 steps, potentially 3 if you don't want to do Boolean everything together. The mesh will still shrink wrap around unjoined objects, but I wanted to do the bottom slice. And then after the shrink wrap, you do the SubD Quad Remesh command, and it's amazing. There is no way you could ever build this from scratch. I've tried. So check this out, Shrink Wrap, Quad Remesh, now you know.